I had posted this somewhere else, and it was suggested I post here. Finally, I'm getting around to it. So here's my let's not meet experience. I'm a girl, and this happened when I was 20, in the early 2000s. And people used landlines then, and cell phones were not unlimited. This happened in a town about an hour away from Sacramento. My friend was house-sitting for a family that her family was friends with from church. She was to house-sit in the country just outside of town for a week. They had animals like cats, rabbits, a donkey, and a horse. The family had dogs too, but the family took those with them. My friend was in charge of feeding all the animals and just watching the place. She didn't have to get the mail daily because they had this metal lockbox-style mailbox right down their long driveway. They didn't have any neighbors for miles, just fields of alfalfa, cattle, and corn. I guess the lockbox was just for safety. And towards the end of the week, she asked if I wanted to spend the night and keep her company. I thought it sounded like a lot of fun. I had moved out of my aunts and uncles and got my own apartment, so I told her I'd pick her up on the way there after I got out of work. We got there at around 9:30 p.m., grabbing dinner on the way. We went into the barn first thing and fed the animals. It was late for their dinner, and they made their hunger well known with their little animal noises. We made sure they had water as well. Then we headed inside. The house was this big ranch-style house. Single story. The living room was to the left as you walked into the home. There was a long hallway directly to the right of the entrance that led to where the bathroom and bedrooms were. Straight ahead was a dining area, and to the left of that was the kitchen area and a patio door. They did not have an open floor plan. In the kitchen, on the opposite side from the dining area, was a long hall that had several doors. My friend explained that the wife ran a daycare center out of the house. Those rooms had been set aside as play areas for the kids she would take care of. We didn't bother going over there because we had no interest. We watched some TV, ate our leftovers, and talked about people we knew. As it got later, she turned on the house alarm and said she didn't like sleeping in other people's beds, so she had been sleeping on the couch. She offered it to me. She would sleep on one of those two huge recliners that reclined so far back it was almost flat. The chairs were really comfortable, so I said I'd just take the chair. I went and laid back with my blanket. We turned off the TV and were talking for maybe 20 minutes in the dark when the motion sensor floodlights started shining through the window, lighting up the room. Now I really have no idea why people in the country think it's okay to not have curtains or blinds, because to me that's just insane. We both go real quiet, and Amanda says, maybe it was one of the cats. We start hearing gravel crunching, like a person walking across the parking area outside. My chair was closest to the window. I slid carefully down to the floor, clutching the stupid blanket the entire time. The floodlight timed out, and my friend slid to the door as well. We laid on our stomachs in the dark, not knowing what to do for a full minute, when we heard a loud bang, and all of a sudden the house alarm started blaring, and the floodlight shot on again. It was so loud that we covered our ears and started to panic. I swear, I've never been so close to peeing my pants in my life. I began crawling towards the keypad for the security, because I've seen the commercials. There's a button you push and a person responds to you in case of emergency, or at least sends the police. The main screen reads, Patio 1 of 2 open. Amanda starts to cry a little and hits the call assistance button on the pad. Nothing happens. There's no assistance. I ask her where the phone is. She says there's a phone in the kitchen and one in the parents' room down the hall. Our choices are to go to the kitchen past the windows and next to one of the patio doors, or go down the hall to the parents' room and use the phone there. I asked her where the other patio was. She said it was in the daycare part of the house. It was an easy decision to make. We go inside the parents' room, and it's all pitch black. I ask her where the phone is. She says, I think we have to turn on a light. I really didn't want to, but we didn't have much of a choice. I don't have a flashlight, and I didn't bring my cell because I had limited minutes. It was a simpler time, and Amanda didn't even get her own cell phone until after this happened. She turns on the light, and we start frantically searching around the room. Not only did these people not have any curtains on any window, but they didn't even have closet doors. We see a golf club leaning against the wall by the bed. They probably have that instead of a baseball bat, which is what I had next to my bed at home. We figure if we hit someone with it, it's gonna leave a mark. She grabs it, and we continue our search for the phone. Looking at the obvious places, we find a cordless phone stand, minus the actual phone. The alarm is still raging, we have a light on, and the person who opened the patio door is bound to notice. That was all I could think at this point. She asks, "Should we use the locate phone buttons?" I look at her and respond, "Yeah, if you want some strange guy coming in here with it and asking us if we were looking for something." I was getting mad and quite scared of the situation, standing there knowing that we had to go to the kitchen. The house alarm suddenly stops. It gets country quiet. If you lived in the country, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There isn't another weapon for me to grab, so I make her go out first, flipping every light on and keeping the doors we pass the hall in closed. We double-check the security panel. It still says the patio is open. Hit the call button, still doesn't work. Double-checking the front door is locked, we start for the kitchen. I tell her we have to check the patio near the kitchen. I grab a big dull knife from the kitchen as well. We check the patio door and it's locked. We turn on all the lights and grab the phone and dial 911. The phone wasn't a cordless phone. It was one of the old ones with a cord attached on a wall. My friend is on the phone with the dispatcher, telling her what happened, when I hear a whistle coming from outside the kitchen window. The thing people don't think about, which I didn't in my thinking, is that while you have the reflection of the inside on the window, people on the outside have a clear view of you, unless you press your face right against it. I hear the whistle again. It sounds like someone trying to get someone else's attention, but when I look out, I can't see anything outside. I'm not pressing my face to the window to see if I'm the person they're whistling for. My friend is still talking to the dispatcher and is crying, saying she doesn't know the address to the house. She hands me the phone. The dispatcher lady sounded annoyed and tells me she needs an address to send the police to. I ask if she can trace the call and she says something like, "You're house sitting and you don't even know where you're at?" Scared, angry, and overwhelmed, I hand the phone back to Amanda and start looking for anything with an address in the kitchen. I'm looking through the junk drawer, on the counter, on the refrigerator, fully keeping an eye down the hall that has the daycare rooms, knowing that on the other side of one of those doors is a patio door that's wide open. Amanda tells the lady that she doesn't pick up the mail because of their lockbox. A few seconds later, she removes the phone from her ear and stares at me with a blank face. I ask her if they're tracing the call because I cannot find anything with an address. She said, "I hope the police find you in time," and hung up the phone. I was now really angry. We knew that there were people outside. We knew that the patio door to the daycare area was open. We didn't know what to do. We stood in the kitchen silent for what seemed like forever, but was probably only 1 minute. I picked up the phone and dialed 411. I told Amanda that they would have the number to the police department. As calmly as I could, I explained what was happening to us to 411. I included the 911 dispatcher and said we really needed the phone number of the town's police department. We heard a huge metal bang outside the kitchen window by the patio door. It sounded like someone had dropped something metal and heavy. Amanda started crying, and I couldn't hold in my fear anymore and started crying as well. The 411 operator said they were contacting us and would stay on the line with us after getting pissed at the 911 dispatcher on our behalf. A police officer answered the phone, and the operator started explaining what was happening to the police. They were asked to disconnect once we had established a connection. The police asked a few questions, and we heard the whistle outside once again. The floodlights all around the house were turning on. I was too scared to look outside, and we had never turned on the patio light. We had to walk past the patio window to get to the switch. We told the policeman on the phone about the whistling, and he said that there should be several policemen showing up shortly and to stay on the phone. We were just outside the town limits, and we knew it might take a few minutes. Having an officer there, though, made me feel a bit better, but I was still really scared. He told us that the police had arrived and were coming up the driveway. The policeman said to put down the phone and open the door, so I did. What I saw was a police pickup truck with spotlights flashing into the pastures that ran along both sides of the drive. 2 officers, not with handguns, but with shotguns, walking slowly beside the truck as it came up the long drive. 4 officers approached the house and asked us for our names. One walked over to the phone, said they were here, and hung up. They ordered us to stay in the dining room and began searching the house and property. One by one, they returned. The last one came back in through the patio door by the kitchen. He said he had searched the barn and the horses had looked spooked. He asked what other animals there were. They told us they didn't find anyone and that the daycare patio door was not locked. There was, however, a broom handle in the track to prevent it from being opened too far. I looked at the patio door that the officer entered in and saw there was not a broom handle in that one, then felt dumb because he had just walked right through it. They lectured Amanda about not knowing the address of the house she was supposed to be responsible for, and for lots of other stuff I can't remember. After finishing statements, they said they'd stick around and look more if we wanted. They could lock the bottom lock but not activate the alarm, and we were cool with that. We were out of there so fast. We got into my car and went to our mom's. So mentally exhausted, we fell asleep and I went to my office job the next morning. She said she didn't really want to go back to the house, but she had to feed the animals their breakfast. Her mom told her to take her sister, and she did. That afternoon she called me at work. She was really nervous and began telling me that when they went into the house, there were footprints and poop on the carpet. I said it was probably from the cop that had checked the barn. She said she didn't know or pay attention last night. She also said that when they went into the barn to feed and water the animals in the morning, someone had tied all the rabbits' legs together in their hutches. Amanda then continues to say there was a note with the word lucky scribbled on the back of a pizza coupon she thought came from the refrigerator door because the flyer was missing one. It took a while for them to untie the rabbits, and Amanda asked her mom to find someone else from their church to finish the house sitting. She wasn't going back. She also told the officer what she came back to, but no one was ever caught, and the police never called either of us to update us. Apologies in advance for mobile formatting and a longish story, but it hasn't stopped nagging at me since I found this thread. You know when you look back at your teenage years and say, I shouldn't be alive? This is that. For context, the street I lived on was in rural New England, occupied mostly by families, and completely without streetlights. It was always quiet and empty by 11 p.m. At 13 years old, I was going through quite the big rebellious phase. I'd sneak out with friends at night, and we'd walk about 2 miles to the nearest gas station to get snacks, smoking weed all along the way. On this particular night, I had gotten into a fight with my mother. I waited until she was asleep at around 1 a.m. and snuck out the window alone. I usually didn't make this walk solo, but I was quite heated, and to the best of my knowledge, I lived in a small, safe rural town. I was halfway down the road just about, when a pair of headlights pulled up behind me. I didn't think too much of it, until they slowed down and stopped. It was a rickety-looking farm truck, the kind you can hear rumbling and creaking down the road from a distance. The solo male driver rolled down his window to introduce himself. He told me his name, which I wish I remembered, asked for mine, and stuck out a hand for a handshake, very clearly trying to get me to approach his vehicle. I was already pretty skeeved by his small talk, but I was more afraid of being rude than kidnapped, so my dumbass walked right up and shook it. Looking back, he could have pulled me in right then and there, but for some reason he didn't. So this weird middle-aged man is leering at me heavy and asking me what do I do for fun? Did I want to have some? Where am I going? Maybe he could give me a ride. Do I live around here? I took a few big steps back and thumbed at the random house behind me, telling him I lived there and was just returning home. My parents were expecting me as well. At this point, I was well aware I was in danger, but trying not to show him how spooked I was. After I rebuffed his offer for a ride a few more times and turned back towards my house, he sped off, like burning rubber fast. I tried to get his license plate, but of course it was too dark, so I just watched him drive away relieved, until he pulled into a roundabout driveway and started speeding back towards me. I turned around and leapt behind the stone wall in front of my house. Army crawled over to a bunch of trees. From behind this wall in the fetal position, I could hear the truck slow down again and stop. This is the worst fucking part. The truck door slams shut, and I hear the driver's feet hit the pavement. He walks around, pacing the section of the street I'd been in, clearly searching for me. It felt like he did this for ages. I was sure he'd find me behind this small stone wall, only a few feet from where we had last spoken. But after a while he must have believed I'd gone home, because he got back in his truck and drove off. My hand comes off my mouth and the tears start flowing. I was about to get up when I heard his truck turn around once more. This freak cruises back up the street at a crawl 3 more times before he finally drives off in the direction he'd come from in the first place. I waited another 15 minutes before finally getting up. I was too afraid to get back on the road, so I snuck through people's backyards until I finally arrived at my house. I ran in my back door to find my brother playing video games, surprised to see me. He had no idea I'd even left in the first place. If this creep had succeeded in what seems to me to be an attempted opportunistic abduction, nobody would have ever known I was gone until the next morning. I don't know what this guy's plan was for me, but it sure didn't seem innocent. This happened on New Year's Eve/day of 2019 to 2020. I was celebrating the end of another year at my house with 3 of my friends. My dad was out at a friend's party for the new year, and my younger sister was at a sleepover as well. We were waiting in the living room, waiting for the cookies we'd baked to be ready, eating the raw leftover cookie dough. Who cares about salmonella, right? Watching Netflix, Castlevania Season 2 if anyone cares. Being teenage girls with no cooking skills for anything but pastries, we had ordered a shit ton of pizza and fast food from the local pizza shop. So, when someone knocked at the door, we originally thought nothing of it. I mumbled some comment about the delivery people not knowing what a doorbell was, got up, pausing the TV, and paid the delivery guy. I went back to my friends and we started to dig in while watching the TV still. And then this is the moment I don't think I can ever forget. Everything was so vivid. The door to the living room was shut and the curtains closed. TV at near full volume. We were all intently focused on the season's final episode, either throwing comments out at the TV or just sounds of surprise. This all began just as the final fight of the season started. My best friend Allie had just shouted something like, "Wow, he can turn into a fucking wolf." At the same time, an aggressive bang came to the door. We didn't fully register it because of Allie's shouting and the loud soundtrack during the fight. I paused the TV, waiting for a minute, when another bang came to the door. I got up, curious to who it could be. No one should have been coming that late. I stuck my head out the living room, seeing a man stood still at the door. Because I'm a teenage girl home with only 2 other teenagers, I obviously didn't answer it. I stood by the doorway, able to watch him to make sure he would leave. He didn't. He banged on the door rhythmically. My friends and me were different people. I'm very paranoid and organized, whereas they're more relaxed and laid back. They told me to just sit back down and eventually he'd leave. But then the door handle started to shake aggressively. "Call the police," I said. My phone was upstairs in my room charging, so Allie called 999. She was speaking with the operator when everything seemed to slow down. The man had picked up a rock and thrown it at the window in our door. The key was in the lock, and to get it out I'd have to go towards him. The police told us to find a place to hide with a lock, but no room in our house had one. The lock on the bathroom had been broken since we'd moved in, but we'd never had a reason to fix it. So we ran out of the living room into the kitchen. I had two ideas. One, get a knife in case I had to defend myself, or at least just threaten him. Two, get out Storm. Storm was my dad's dog. He was a security dog and ex-police, so I grabbed his lead, got him out of his dog cage, and clipped on the lead, grabbing a kitchen knife as I went into the backyard with my friends. The man opened the door to the yard where we all stood. I tried not to look scared, but this man had to be about 40. Long, greasy hair and blank blue eyes. They seemed to not have any emotions behind them, but his mouth was twisted into a grin, and he was holding a hunter's knife. Storm was barking loudly at him, but the man didn't falter. I was hesitant to let go of Storm, because I didn't want him to get hurt. "Come any closer and I'll let him off," I shouted at the man who just kept walking towards us. I backed away to stand next to my friends. The second I let Storm off, "We get the knife," I whispered to my friends. They nodded. Allie still had the operator on the phone, who said anything we did at this point could be classified as self-defense. "Go!" I ordered Storm, letting him off the lead. Storm lunged at the man, knocking him backwards and causing the knife to drop, but not too far away. Storm grabbed tight on his arm, and I ran over, kicking the knife away from him. We fought for maybe 10 or 20 minutes when the police finally came in, and I grabbed Storm away from the man. My dad was called and came straight home to make sure we were okay, which we were, luckily. We later found out that the man was a convicted sex offender who had moved in 2 streets down and saw me walking Storm and our other dog quite a lot. I'm thankful we have Storm and that my dad taught me how to deal with difficult and dangerous situations, because I don't know what would have happened if we just sat there watching TV. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. As always, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you have any criticisms on how I can make the videos better, or any thoughts about it in general, please be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. As well, in the description below the video, there will be links to all of my social media, including my Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, and Twitch accounts. If you guys want to chat, please be sure to send me a message on any of those. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Please be forewarned, though, that I tend to go on Facebook less than the others, so it may take me a little bit longer to respond to you. If you want to send in a story, or you have a story that you'd like to be read, please be sure to take a look at the description and send me a message on any one of those sites. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include the name of the story if it has one, the theme of the story if it has one as well, and how you would like to be credited in the video the story appears in, and how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. And please be sure to include as much detail as you are comfortable with, and make sure to follow proper grammar at least a little bit. That way it will be easier for me to read, and it will also be long enough to put into a video. If you guys are curious about the music used in the video, it's always listed in the description in the order which it appears, and I have links to the artists as well. I usually use Doblato Studios and Miyuji, so that's usually what you're going to find there. If you're curious about the art in the video, my art guy Alan always does all of my art for the channel. He's a very good friend of mine, and I have links to all of his social media as well, so if you like his stuff, be sure to check him out. He does commissions as well, I'm pretty sure, so if you like it, you can definitely get some good quality products from him. I don't think there's too much new updates today, other than the fact that I'm very excited for the PlayStation 5 coming out, and I just ordered Pikmin 3 on the Switch, so hopefully that gets here soon. I've been waiting like 3 years for that because nobody bought a Wii U. So yeah, that's my news for now. Be sure to let me know how you guys are doing as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.